On this episode of Carnage, we're getting our 1UZ together and then getting it in the engine bay. On the last episode of Carnage, we tried to get our 1UZ engine together and get it in the car. However, we hit a minor roadblock, and that was this bent tensioner pivot bolt. When you screwed it in, it basically put the tensioner on the piss, which means the belt wouldn't line up. On the piss is an Australian expression for those that are watching from overseas. It means you're so drunk that you're actually, leaning off to the side. So yeah, that's what we mean by on the piss. So we've bought a new tensioner pivot bolt out of Dubai. It cost all of $3 US, and then we bought the matching $2 washer that goes with it, and then it costs $17 to get it here. But still, that's pretty cheap coming from Dubai, where apparently they build a lot of these engines. Who knew? So anyway, let's finish off the 1UZ and get it in the engine bay, but first we have to do timing belt, timing gears, timing covers, sump. There's a fair bit to do. Get the engine mounts on there, and then we can drop it in the engine bay. Before we get too far into this episode, we need to talk about VPW's new catalogue. It is 436 pages of awesome parts, a lot of which we'll be using in our Lexan build. In fact, we've got a new build coming, and we're basically going to be belting a turbo to this catalogue and tipping the entire catalogue into the car. But you'll see that one in a couple of months. It's going to be exciting. But yeah, if you need a catalogue, jump on the VPW website. I'm sure you can get one through there. Or come see us at a show or an event. If you see us at the drags, we'll have a box of catalogues, and come grab one for free. So we have our new pivot bolt. So we'll screw that in. Hopefully it'll go in straight this time. That is still on the piss a bit. I swear this engine is just trying to punish me now. So it's not just the pivot bolt that's bent. It was bent, but it is also the actual oil pump where the threaded bit is that it screws into. It is obviously changed the angle of those threads. There's been enough force to bend the pivot bolt and also stretch the threads down at a different angle, because this thing is still not right. So I need to get another oil pump. Bugger. Stuff it.
Success! Parts from Dubai. Genuine Toyota parts. Yep. That's what we need. Genuine oil pump with straight threads. That's what we need. All right, well, I guess we need to start whipping this old pump off. Get that new hotness in there. So we've slid a piece of alloy 1 3/4 inch pipe just through the front seal to hold it open, so we can then slide this onto the crank, line up our pump. There we go. Okay, we have the seal on the crank thanks to our tube. We've got our pump on the front of the motor. Now we just need to put in our many bolts. So the oil pump is held on by 7 12mm bolts. They're done up to 16 Newton meters, and then there's one 14mm bolt down here, and it's 30 Newton meters, so it needs the bigger torque wrench. Now we can finally put our idler in properly, our idler pivot bolt, and it will be lined up correctly for once. Well, finally, I'm glad that is over. It's taken us 2 weeks to get to this point because of issues with, first we ordered the bolt, then we had to order the pump. Now we need to get it on. Obviously everything's there now. It's time to do the timing belt. Finally. Now comes the fun times of doing the timing belt. So we've got it all lined up. We've got our crank wheel lined up at the right spot. We've got our cams lined up at the right spot in line with the covers. So now we're going to, you find 2 marks closest together on the belt. They are your cam marks. So we'll go to the other mark. There's 3 marks on the belt. This one is the crank mark, and so that has to go to a mark on the bottom of the crank gear. Let's line her up on the right tooth. There we go. Around we go. So we're just going to turn it over, make sure everything is sweet, which it should be. That's 1. 2. Now that we've got our new oil pump on there, our timing belt on there, let's flip her over, get the sump on it, seal the deal. So I've touched on this before, but I think it bears repeating. We need to use a front sump setup on this to work with our engine mounts and our K-frame that's in the car. It had a mid sort of sump on it. We managed to find a front sump 1UZ setup. Now we're going to have to relocate a couple of things. So these long studs, they're going to have to come out, and these short ones here will have to come out because, you know, 2 of them are too long and 2 of them are too short. So they're too long and they're too short. So we'll have to do some relocating of some stuff. But yeah, basically that's what's going to happen. That'll go on there. We'll put our pickup on, our intermediate plate, and then our steel sump. And yeah, should be pretty good. So before we stick this on, I'll just point out that normally these would run an oil level sensor through here. And what we've done is we've bought this little adapter from Venom Automotive, and it basically takes a Dash 10 ORB fitting. So yeah, we delete our oil level sensor and just use this as our return line port for our turbo when that goes on. Very cool. All right, let's put some goo on this stuff. Let's go find our bolts. This engine is getting bigger all the time. All right, let's go. Yeah, it's all greasy. There we go. All right, pin. Come to me, pin. There we go. Okay, moving on. Okay, time for covers, which we have cleaned and fitted with new seals. Okay. So we are getting there with the 1UZ. Now I want to look at some stuff before, put manifolds on. We've got these crossover passages which have been ice blasted and look amazing. So we've got that one for there, and we've got that one for there, and then we've got a manifold to go on there. I'm guessing it goes that way because the arrow. Alright, so that's got to go there. Now the starter motor goes under all this stuff, so we're going to make sure we do the starter motor first, and then we've got our plate from the skid factory and Golby's. That goes on there, and then this part goes up there. Wow, that actually looks really amazing. So this thing's going to look pretty awesome when it's all together, and we're going to have to drop it in the car shortly, but I want to just sort out some of the pipe work and stuff. Also, we're going to use these VQ37 coils, so they go in quite well. They just need a 10mm spacer. So we're going to have to make some spacers up for them, 10mm spacers for the rear 3 on each side, and on the front one it doesn't quite line up. There's a little bit of a 1-inch gap, so you've got to make kind of a spacer that not only spaces upwards but spaces backwards as well. So we'll just have to make something up for that. But that will be a pretty neat solution. It was actually suggested to me by Al at Skid Factory, so thanks Al. And so we're going to do coil unplug. We have to set up our cam sensor for our trigger, a few other things, but we are getting there. You know what, I'd love to put some engine mounts on this thing and sit it in the car. Maybe we'll do that by the end of the episode. I'd love to see what it sits like in the car. Alright, so we've got this, has to go on there. Very fancy, very expensive. Alrighty, where are you?
A few moments later.
So for the last half an hour or more, I've been having a bit of a play with the plastic pieces to see which fits where and what fits and what doesn't. It mostly fits. The cover on this side doesn't quite work with our new idler pulley arrangement. Not sure why. So we'll just have to make a little incision in there so it sits down properly. What we're going to do is probably set it up so we can run the covers over the cam wheels so they're not exposed, but we'll make little cuts. So the cover is that big. So we're going to make a cut kind of there to separate this section from that section, because we're going to go coil unplug, and coil unplug is not going to sit under these covers. They might sit close, but they're not going to sit totally under there. So we'll separate the cam cover or the cam wheel cover from the actual spark plug cover. Make that part neat, and then we can look at the rocker cover covers later. But yeah, other than the fact it's all dirty and manky, looks like it's going to work. Now I've got to pull it all off again. Yeah. So now I'm going to bolt some engine mounts. We've got these engine mounts from Rod Shop. So we're going to put these Rod Shop engine mounts on the engine and then bolt the engine in the car, do a test fit. It probably will come out again, but I want to do some, just make sure everything's going to fit. Also want to get the trans bolted up to it as well. We'll start with the A340, see if we can make that work. If it doesn't, then maybe it'll get the Turbo 400 out of the Trolvo. We'll see. We'll start with the A340 first though. Anyway, let's bolt some engine mounts on. Wide load coming through. Going down. So our engine is in, but it's not in, if you know what I mean. This side, the engine mount, the bolt is in, that's fine. That side, it is not, because this rocker cover hits against the brake booster and it's hard up against it. And so anytime we try and lift up the engine on that side to get the mount in, it's just trying to jam this booster over further. So we've got some real problems with that. So I'm going to make some calls to some Commodore people I know and see if there's a smaller booster option for us. And if there is, that's where we'll go. Otherwise, we're going to have to do some modifications to our mounts or something, because yeah, at the moment, she ain't going to fit. So, I've got to make some calls. We're going to sort this out, but you're going to see all that in a future episode of Carnage.